You're listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
Can you ask your future self a question? Well, hey there. Welcome back. They say hindsight is 20/20. I mean, it is, right? Hindsight's 20/20, and that looking back on an experience you've already lived, you can make some pretty intelligent, informed decisions, right? You can say what you would have done because you've already seen what you did do. But this looking back also has a downside of, regret and remorse. Knowing what you know now, you look back, and with even more information, you pronounce your actions as wrong, while forgetting that you didn't have this new information, right? Your past self didn't know, but now you're in a position to know, and then you judge your past self with new information that you either wouldn't have, didn't have, couldn't have. So, I mean, in a way you tell yourself what you should have done, right? Which isn't healthy. I mean, on one extreme, just, to dwell on the past, as they say, and you say, I should have done that. I should have done that. Oh my God. Well, you can't talk to your past self. You say, why did I do that? I should have known better. Well, you didn't, or something else happened. And you can't really ask your past self a question. Why did you do that? Right? I mean, it's sort of a thought experiment. I suppose you could, and this is the place for thought experiments. So you could ask your past self, right? Why did you do that, past Mark? And in this thought experiment, I guess your past self, my past self, would answer, I didn't know any better, or I was a different person, or I don't know. Since I can't really ask my past self, I can only ask the part of my brain that I can sort of create a past self out of and say, look, you don't get any of this information. It's 1987. Go. What would you do? So, thought experiment, right? All the questioning in the world that you do to your past self does not change the past. Knowing that, we still do it because we're trying to change here we go, right? We're trying to change the present. Well, that brings us to the point of this podcast. Because there is someone you can ask a question to, or to whom you can ask a question if you want to be fancy schmancy about it. It's the person who has yet to take action. So instead of asking your past self, do something radically different. And just so you know, I did a podcast called Notes from the Future. You may want to check that one out too. I linked it in the description text of this podcast. And you may notice that, I love thinking fourth dimensionally about things. I mean, you can think about a problem, but then if you apply the whole dimension of time to it, lots of solutions crop up, lots of options, and lots of perspective pop up that wouldn't be there. Okay, so you got all that, right? And now you're thinking, okay, Mark, how do I ask myself a question in the future? I mean, I know how to second guess myself. I know how to ask myself a question. I know how to sort of look back with regret or whatever and ask myself, why did I do something when I can't really answer from the past, or I sort of can, and none of that stuff seems really helpful. So how do I ask a question to someone who actually doesn't exist yet? Because Mark of 3 days from now doesn't exist yet, and he won't until 3 days pass, period. But as I say, there is a way. And here's how you can do it. You create a time capsule, but not a physical one. You create it in your head. There are things in life in which we think, or which we do and take actions because of something that happened in our past, right? Because of something that happened in your childhood. You are adamant about not being late, or about how you trust people, or your preferences for certain things, or not letting certain things get out of hand. I mean, there are a multitude there's an unlimited amount of things that really affect us on a day-to-day basis that we sort of took from the past, right? I mean, because we're the sum of all those experiences, right? Well, aren't those experiences little notes from the past? Aren't those experiences and things notes to our future self, and we continue to carry them with us, and every so often we open them and we go, oh yeah, I'm the future self again. Oh yeah, I'm the future self again. So for example, something happens in your childhood in which it frightens you and you think, I never want to be in that position again, right? So you have a note about that particular position, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's a situation, whatever it is. And you detect that you're in that situation or about to become that situation. So you open the note from the past, and 11-year-old you says, oh no, don't do that. It really, really, really terrified me. Don't do that. And you go, oh, okay. And then you avoid it, right? Okay, devil's advocate does say that yes, obviously, again, your past self might not have all the knowledge. I mean, if you developed claustrophobia because of something that happened in the past, that note doesn't really apply to, oh my God, my house is constantly going to collapse. I get it, right? But I'm talking about something that's actually useful. So we're carrying notes from the past to the future anyway. So why not cognitively, mindfully decide to write one? And you may think that this sounds a little bit like the Notes from the Future podcast. It does, but the Notes from the Future podcast were specifically you sending information from the future to the past. This is you cognitively sending notes from the... Oh, I'm sorry. Did I lose you? Come on. Stay with me here. We'll maybe pause it and have some coffee. Stay with me here. Just real simply, all we're doing here is we are doing something that we do naturally, but we're actually taking control. And that's what I love about this sort of stuff, is that, you know, the human mind and psyche and psychology and everything else have all these automatic layers and functionality and machinery, and it's so cool, but it's so automated, and we lose control of so much, but we have so much control over it that we can do it. So let's send a question in the same way that we send a note, right? So you can ask yourself from a year from now a question. Will you get an answer? Eventually. If Mark from Monday asks a question of Mark from Friday, I can do a thought experiment and see what the answer would be, right? Well, I hope this is going to be the answer on Friday. Ho, ho, ho. I don't normally talk like Santa, but that was fun. But when Friday shows up, Friday Mark will have an answer. Friday Mark can't give the answer to Monday Mark, or can he? Because Monday Mark and Friday Mark are now the same person. Because Monday catches up with Friday, right? I mean, right? I mean, as long as I'm alive, I am the sum of every single day I've been alive. So here's an example that maybe you'll clarify. Let's say you're going to do something that normally freaks you out. Let's say you're somebody who is, unlike me, you're not a glutton for punishment. So if you're going to go out on a date, you space them far and few between, and you get super nervous and things like that, right? So you have a date on Friday. So you ask yourself on Monday, Mary, are you going to freak out? That's it. Are you going to freak out? And then when you get to be Friday, you think, oh yeah, that's right. I asked myself if I was going to freak out. And you say, you know what? I'm not going to freak out. And you don't. And you think, well, somehow I changed it just by asking. Aha. That's kind of the point of this. By asking the question, you create an awareness. And you might say, oh, that's like an affirmation mark. And I'd say, well, what's an affirmation mark? And you'd say, ba-dum-bump. But no, I understand it is a bit like an affirmation mark. I'm not going to freak out. But you didn't put that pressure on yourself, you see? Because we like to cheat here at the old ranch. You're not putting any pressure of affirmation saying, I will do this, I will be good, I will be brave. You just ask yourself a question. I'm just asking questions here, man. So try that. Just try it at least once. Maybe space it a week, maybe space it a day. Ask your end of the day person a question. And as always, I would love to hear feedback of what question you asked. And thank you so much. Hey there, thanks for listening. You know I always enjoy your feedback. The prequel to The Sword and the Sunflower duet, called Upside Down, is now available. The Sword and the Sunflower is available as Kindle, paperback, and audiobook, with the other two, Amira and Upside Down, being available as Kindle and paperback. Well, actually, all three books are now available in hardcover.